Kia ora tātou, he mihi anō kia koutou, kia ora koutou maunga awa, e te mātauranga maunga koutou tēnā koutou. So this afternoon's session, this last bit, is mother enhancing. As was mentioned earlier on, it's now in the Act. So given that this is new to not only health legislation, but a number of bits and pieces that are coming out, we thought it would be a good idea to kind of have this session. So for those who don't know me, I'm Huriwai, I do addiction stuff. My history, I guess I started a few years ago in probation here in Christchurch, and Hemi Atukia Peter. So we worked for a while there, but Ash is the sneaky one. He actually did a placement there a million years ago, so probably even with half these people. So as probation officer in Christchurch, of course, I got to work with a whole lot of people that at that stage, people Mahu and Kennedy often thought they couldn't work with because they had ASPD. And so those of us, it would never happen nowadays, of course. Most of you would say that you are able to work with the offender group. So most of us kind of developed a range of skills, and mine, I guess, was this passion for working with in the addiction sector, AOD. But actually what happened is probably the first 6 months I ended up going to a lot of GA meetings at Huriwai, just because one of my first clients was the gambling issue. So AOD, problem gambling, kind of became part of what I had a passion for. Also got to work with a number of services in Christchurch, of course, and when I first started, Huntsbury was on the hill before it kind of came down, moved down into Templeton and became Noma, and was part of the team that moved Odyssey House when it first came to Christchurch from Gloucester Street to where it is now. So again, it gave me a chance to work with a number of services, but also a number of people. And as a probie, I got to also be part of making application to get people under the Act. Also meant working particularly out of Nova, I got to again work with a large number of people under the Act, particularly Section 8. So that's kind of my history working with the Act, goes back to working as a probie. For a while there, I was lucky enough to become involved with another AOD service in Christchurch, which was Māori AOD service, and got to work there in a number of different roles, and eventually got a iwis comment there and worked there as the manager for a few years. So again, gave me a chance to work with a range of people still in the addiction sector, some of whom ended up coming in the Act, but more often it was about working with Māori and whānau, and particularly those who were working coming to and from Queen Mary. Then of course I got to have the pleasure of working as part of the National Addiction Centre, here we had to Kia Fraser, and I guess bringing a lot of that, what I've been learning as part of a hands-on, into some bit of structure. And so I learnt a lot of things there. My role there as a lecturer and researcher, and that again allowed me to work not only locally but also across the country in the addiction sector. From there, I drifted off to the Ministry of Health, where I spent a couple of years there, and we were doing a number of things, but something that I think most people who had been to the Ministry had seen over the years, there was always something coming up about the Act, and again the need to review the Act. And I've got to say, going back to working as a probation officer and also working in Te Reo, that the Act actually saved, and probably still does save, lives. And there are whānau people out there who are actually grateful for what it has done, despite the fact that from even before the ink was dry on the first legislation in '66, people were calling for a change. And so it's taken this long to get here, and we're hoping still that really this Act is still about making lives better for people. So NAC to the Ministry of Health, and then to Mātauraki, and again Ash and Alana Himihi Atukia Korua, the whānau hoki. From there, I'm now at Taramatini, still doing addiction stuff. So all this track has really brought me to this place where I'm still doing addiction, and we're really proud in Taramatini to be able to support this implementation, and particularly for us to take a role in looking at mana enhancing practice. So by the end of the session, I want you to be able to think about some of the underpinnings to mana enhancing, mana protecting practice, and I guess some of the implications not only for the Act but also for business as usual. When we were looking at the Act, we think about what would be different in the new Act, one of the things we thought about was what would be something that's New Zealand. What is it about New Zealand context that this Act should reflect? And the key thing for us really was in the purpose, or articulated in the purpose of the Act, where it says to protect, enhance mana and dignity and restore capacity. But in putting the idea of enhancing and protecting mana, what does it actually mean in the New Zealand context? The thinking we had when we thought about it was that it very much is from a Māori context. So the underpinnings and the thinking behind mana enhancement and mana protection need to reflect a Māori worldview. So there's that idea that mana is obviously New Zealand context, but also we figured that mana also was about moving towards resolution and healing space. For that, there was this idea that many of the people we see in the sector, the misuse of substances can diminish their mana and their tapu to the point where their potential to achieve, to be well, is compromised. So for us, putting mana into the Act was about a recognition that, if you like, moving forward, people's mana and tapu needs to be at least considered. I guess I have to say that underneath that was also the idea, what's good for Māori is also good for the rest of our population. So today's session is not Māori 101, but what we're going to do is just touch on some of the things, and hopefully you'll pick up on, I guess, points that will hopefully lead to more professional development and thinking about where else you can take this idea. So, mana enhancing and mana protecting practice, at the end of the day, is manaaki. The practice is manaaki. And within it, we're saying when we practice manaaki, we're looking at protecting people's mana and or enhancing it. But what does that actually mean? I guess what we really want to do in this session and under the Act is move the thinking from thinking into what does it mean in practice. So this is about making this real, making mana enhancing, mana protecting, bringing it into real-time practice. What does it mean for you? What does it mean for the AO? If you're thinking about those conversations we've been having through the day, in terms of roles and thinking about capacity, what does mana enhancing, mana protecting really mean? Because it also has an implication for what hopefully your supervision will look like, also what your district inspectors might be thinking of looking for. Importantly, it's also what the perception is we want the community and those in it to have of our practice. So, I love this, and Ash mentioned it earlier on, and it comes from that guidelines that Ash mentioned earlier on, preventing suicide in the ED. I love this little quote about manaakitanga or manaaki. Manaaki includes clinical interactions such as rapport, engagement, care reducing distress, assessment and treatment. It can be expressed by physical acts such as talking, listening, offering refreshment, acknowledging spiritual and cultural practices, offering support and relevant solutions. Kind of add that on as well. So for me it's really good because it articulates a whole lot of different areas of our practice that manaaki can be a part of. I also like it because it's in the guidelines. So it's not just me saying it, but other people are also recognising its impact on our practice. So big ups to the team, Fraser. But what does it actually look like and mean? And we generally think about four, if you like, four sources of mana. Mana atua, mana tupuna, mana tangata, and mana whenua. And all these different kinds of mana get expressed by people in different ways, shapes and form. And so just having an understanding of these kind of areas also helps us understand practice. So, moving on. This is a nice one. It's the idea that I will never be lost, so I'm a seed from the heavens or from the beginning. And it really speaks to the fact that we have in us some inherent mana. That we are, because of our lines of descent, because of where we come from, we all have mana. I guess that's the important thing. Every one of us has mana. Every one of us has some form of mana. And in that recognition, it means our relationships change. It should change. It should mean that we recognise each other's mana and we work in the space, if you like, face to face, eye to eye. So it's a really important reminder, at least for Māori, that this is an inherent thing. If you break up the idea of manaaki, which we talked about is mana enhancing, mana protecting practice, there are different ways you can do that. Talking about mana ki, which is the way of the spoken word. So if we're thinking about mana enhancer or even mana protecting practice, the way we talk about our patients, our clients, their whānau is really important. How do we continue to show respect even though sometimes we have some issues? It's about how do we maintain that sense that everybody has mana regardless. So almost in that space of ngāho mahaki, of ngāko mahaki, of that kind of space where we give that respect to people in all senses of the word. What does it mean? And if you think about mana aki, it's also like the idea of pōwhiri, or the welcoming. How many of you been to, what's the longest pōwhiri people have been to? Can I say days? Anybody been to days? Hours?
Yeah.
Hours?
Yeah.
And more hours?
Yeah.
And the whole idea, though, it can be over really quickly and in minutes. But again, what's the principles of pōwhiri? And pōwhiri is about creating a safe space, and within it, our engagement, our encounter engagement, and our relationship building brings that together in that place, providing a safe space. If people don't feel safe, if they don't feel like you're welcoming them, if you like, then their reaction to you can be a negative one. Whereas if you accord people and afford people, if you honour them that space of mana, then they return that to you. So there's a saying that says basically, if you mistreat your guests, you have a dusty marae. I.e., if you just kind of go through the motions and people don't feel welcome, people vote with their feet. And they really quickly send the message around that this place isn't good. People here don't treat you well. And so it's really important. The way that we're perceived to communicate and honour people is important. So in a service, what's the impression that people get of us? Do they feel welcome? Do they feel like they're being treated as equals? Are they being recognised for their mana in spite of what they might bring? Mana ki te tangata, the importance of taking care and enhancing others. So again, it's the idea of looking after and a little bit of hospitality. Manaaki tangata, caring for people, so it's that next level of how do we demonstrate the care we take? How do we demonstrate that we're doing more than just going through the motions? How do we demonstrate that this isn't just a tick box for people, that people are genuinely engaged? And manaaki tangata, that's the outcome. And the outcome's really important. I might think that I'm being manaaki to Bex, but if she doesn't feel that, and she doesn't get that, then that's the important. I feel like that's the most important thing at the end of the day. She didn't feel the love. And it's the perception. So it's the idea of, it's not the message sent, it's the message received. That's most important. So in our actions, while we think we're doing well, what's the perception coming across? So in this case, for AOs and flows and centres, what's the perception of whānau or family or significant others? Their perception is the important one. So even though we think we're doing a good job, is that the way it's been perceived? So manaaki and mana enhancing and mana protecting practice is all about others, if you like. It can be a source of individual and collective strength. It involves pride, it involves identity, and it has a little bit to do with self-esteem and how people feel in that space. And if we get it wrong, people can disengage. And that's, I guess, one of the things we're thinking about. Why hasn't treatment worked before? Why haven't people, why do people vote with their feet? Maybe it's not them, maybe it's actually us. So part of the challenge for us is thinking, have I done everything so that they feel like this is a place they can come, they can feel safe in here, or is it rather that we're not meeting their needs somehow? And it doesn't matter whether they're Māori or not Māori, it's our ability to create that safe space. If you haven't seen it, there's a TEDx YouTube clip that Tamiiti gives. And this is a really good one, because within it, he talks about mana, but he also talks about it on a number of different dimensions. And if we had time, I could play you the whole thing, because it's really, really good. But he makes the point that mana grounds you, it makes you solid. And so when people have had their mana in their tapu trampled on or belittled, then they feel less solid, they feel less grounded, therefore less able to necessarily engage and make decisions. He also talks about mana being makes us equal. We are all on the same level, kanohi ki te kanohi, it's face to face, tangata ki te tangata, people to people, eye to eye. And that's important, one of the important things he makes in mana. It's about that, if you like, that face to face, that space that's important, that relationship. He also tells a really good story how in the tribunal, Treaty Waitangi Tribunal hearings that he attended, the tribunal sat up on a stage, and they had the tribunal up there making these talks. So Tame went out and of course, you know Tame, he's not that tall either. So when he comes in, he puts a step ladder down and he climbs on the step ladder so he can be eye to eye, face to face. So as he says in the video, it was about saying, your mana does not exceed me. I'm not challenged by your mana, trying to put your mana above mine. And so that whole thing of getting up on the step ladder was saying, now we're equal. Now we're in a place where we can have this conversation. And I guess that's part of what Manaaki is about. How do we ensure that people feel that they're in that space of being equals? Even in a situation where we appear to have some power, or more power than them. And that's the tension, one of the tensions of mana enhancing, mana protecting in this space, this tension. It's also a nice reminder that people often talk about whakamana tangata. We, if you like, we give people mana. But that's not to say that we are colluding with them or that we agree with everything, but it's the way in which we do it. So we enhance mana by providing environments and relationships that respect and motivate people to be the best they can be. So they can recognise their unique and distinctive strengths to achieve the ability to make decisions for their own behalf, to and motivate that wellness. So part of Manaaki practice is, what do we do to create environments and relationships that actually allows people to make better decisions? And I suppose what I'm saying is actually, this is more than just engagement and rapport building. This is about us being deliberate in that practice. This is us being mindful. If I do this, what am I expecting to see? Did I see it? And if I didn't see it, was it what I did? Could I have done something differently? Can the service have done something differently? And thinking through this in a deliberate way. There was a service up north who they were doing a competency set, and one of the things that the admin staff noticed was they had this really old couch in the waiting room that everyone kind of was avoiding. And over time they kind of got some feedback from the community. And one of the things was, particularly older people found that when they sat in the couch, they did the sink thing. So when they went to stand up, it was very undignified the way they had to stand up. And they got almost cast. So what admin decided was, maybe what we'll do is we'll change it. So, of course, they were a poor-hearted service, they had no money. So what they did is got extenders and they lifted the couch up so it was higher. People started sitting in it. People started feeling okay about coming again. Again, what they did is just changed a little thing, and the mana of the people coming into the waiting room was changed because they didn't look undignified and awkward trying to get out of these couches. Just small things like that. What they did changed the nature of the environment. When we walk into services, what's the first thing we see? Don't spit, take your covers off, don't swear, here's the bars. How welcoming is that? So again, if we think about mana enhancing and mana protecting, what's the image we're presenting? And how do we go about creating an environment and relationship of respect that allows, if you like, people to feel that they can start making some decisions? You can't talk about mana without talking about these other concepts. Mauri, Wairua, and Kahupo is this notion of a state where you have an absence, if you like, of Wairua. Tapu and Noa, states of well-being, whānau-centric, very strongly whānau-centric, and competencies. So let's just have a quick look at these. And again, these are just touching on things. We've got a number of workshops that have been going on through the country which allows people to take this a little bit further. And hopefully on our website soon you'll have access to some of the resources that support that workshop. So the idea of Mauri is this, if you like, people often think of it as this life force, this spirit. And it's more than just that. So in the body, physical body, we've got this Mauri which kind of gets us going. and we have this wairua that does the roving thing. When the body dies, the mauri goes, but the spirit continues. The mauri is really important because if you like, that's the bit that is the energy, our driver. It's about the sense of purposeness, inspiration. And people have this, and as they become more and more unwell or stuck in some of the states of well-being, talk about people, their spirit, if you like, and their mauri kind of being depleted. That's the bit that we start to try and reawaken, and we want to make different decisions or to be well. And some of that's about their motivation, and so mauri is a really important concept when we look at mana. This Katoki, Māori noho, Māori mate, Māori tū, Māori ora. The idea when we're in that place of languishing, Māori noho, then we're going to be unwell, Māori mate. So Māori tū and Māori ora is the idea that when our mauri is well, if you like, up and going, then we're more likely to be in that well space. And I think many of the people we're going to be seeing under the Act, that space where it's not only their physical being that's depleted, it's compromised, but also, if you like, their mauri, their energy to move, to be well. This is just a thing to remind me that another part of mauri of mana is where it comes from in terms of atua. And it's not about religion, it's more about our connection to the greater things. And tapu is a really important thing. It goes hand in hand with mana. You can't talk about mana without tapu because, in a sense, in our traditions, they both come from initially the same space. They both come from the space of, from the divine, if you like. But what we find is when that tapu has been trampled on or compromised, again, can put us into places where it's hard to make decisions, or the decisions we make take us on a negative space. So the thing about it though is that part of resolution or restoration of doubt means dealing with tapu, and in that space it also means mana can be worked with as well. An important part of the process, and we'll talk about this a little bit later on, is the important of tapu to no, moving from a place where the potential and the sanctity of each person and situation to a place of a working space, if you like. The big question for us in our centre, our supporter centre, is how do we move people into a place where they can get onto, if you like, the business of transformation? What's the process we use, or as people come into our centres, but also when they go home? How do we ensure that the processes for people are not only welcoming, but there's a reciprocity back to where they're from? Anybody know who that is? Okay, that's William Whitewood. It's just there to remind me. So Willie's quite big, particularly on YouTube, and his thing has been about Whitewood. So it's a nice reminder for me. But just a reminder that when we talk about Whitewood, often people just think of it as a spirit. But I like this this thing that David Chappell and Rebecca Chappell put out a few years ago when they were doing some training. And it's just a reminder that even within those domains that we often talk about in Tawhawha, there are domains within the domains. And for us to think about those domains, it's a bit like a capacity issue. People can have capacity in some areas of, say, Wairua, and other parts of the bits that actually get in the way. So it's a nice reminder that even Wairua has different aspects. And some of those aspects include things like identity, the way people feel, and the way that those things can compromise our ability to make decisions. So it's almost like, what are the things about people in that state, or their state of Wairua, that potentially impinge on their ability to make decisions, or the choices they make? We'll get back onto this soon. Oh, that's just a reminder. What is that a reminder of? Were you alive then? Who knows? But there's a discussion that's been going on for a long time that some substances, and particularly about cannabis, can put people in a different state of being. Right? And in a Māori sense, some of that controlling, if you like, those other realms has been through the process of karakia, for instance. But when people use substances like cannabis and some of the other hallucinogens, what they do is, rather than going through accepted pathways, they jump through windows and kick down doors and they let stuff out, and some of it they take with them and some of it affects others. So it's just a reminder that for a very small number of people perhaps, their substance of choice is also taking them down a track where other things might be happening. And again, for some of them, it might interfere with their ability to make decisions, their ability to see solutions. So it's just something for something to be wary of. And often that would be seen as, if you like, some of the, I suppose it's compromise or tapu, but certainly it's to do with Wairua as well. And which reminds us, there's it's a million years ago, it's the first time ago. And so Te Nara Learning Systems had an assessment system, and what it reminded people of is that there are states of well-being, even if you like in a Māori worldview. And in those spaces, it talks about when you get to that state of well-being, again, your spirit or your mauri can become stuck or starts to diminish to the point where your ability to function or to participate in the world goes out the window. And so it's a nice reminder that sometimes when we have these discussions with people and we're looking for and thinking about their rationale for their making decisions or why they're not making decisions, sometimes it can be because their thinking's in another space. I like one of the criteria in the DSM-5, which is I think it is new compared to DSM-4, is the one that talks about impacts on relationships. Yeah, everyone seen that one? I like that one because it actually talks about the need to articulate the impact on whānau. So as we describe in our, we think they meet criteria because one of the things about describing the impact on whānau is, and it's been said here a number of times, people often, whether it's blood whānau or those who have been in supportive systems, are burnt out, frustrated, angry. Sometimes it's really important for us to describe the impact of the behaviour on other people's mana, because that has a part of, if you like, it's a part of the mana of the person. So having that within the DSM-5 actually gives us license to ensure that we do remember that the mana of whānau is important, and we need to be thinking about how it has impacted on them and ensure it's part of the discussion. The individual and collective share a sense of the influence of mana for one another. So what I do can influence my whānau, and what they do can influence me. And in a Māori sense, it's that balance between the two, which is part of well-being and the way we negotiate those relationships. And again, part of this might be ensuring that we articulate it so that when the AO moves it up to the approved specialist, or when it gets to the responsible clinicians in the service, those parts of addressing the relationship, the whakawhanaunga, get to be covered off, or at least canvassed. What's the relationship? What's the way to well-being? And some of it will be about the connection. Actually, I forgot to say it this morning in Anna's presentation. One of the things that came out of a lot of the ones that left Queen Mary, particularly the Tāpamani program in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, was they couldn't go back to whānau because the whānau was still pissing out. They couldn't go back to whānau because they were still in dysfunctional spaces. They couldn't go back to whānau because they were staying in Christchurch, not going home. But what they created then were whānau in recovery, if you like. Whānau who all had a shared sense of a new purpose. And so they became, if you like, new whānau. Whānau is all about obligations and responsibility. Obligations and responsibility to and for one another. And so they created new ones. And so sometimes out of this, it may not necessarily, just because bridges have been burnt, it doesn't mean that they won't or can't have something to come back into. And that's part of the process, I guess, with mana enhancing, is thinking about moving beyond just the ritual stuff and thinking about, if it's about obligation and responsibility to others, how do we engage people with like mind? And we said before about the influence on one another, individual and the whānau. whakama, that idea of shame or embarrassment can be something that the family carry. So therefore their ability to contribute to well-being down the track is compromised until such time as they've dealt with that. And sometimes it'll be, if you like, those disconnections, and other times it will be actually about dealing with their, I suppose, if you like, the cultural issues as whānau. But it's really important to remember, I guess, that even whānau having to deal with those too. So as part of the moving forward, what does the individual, what does the whānau sense of whakamā mean in terms of them coming to an understanding of making a different decision, but also more importantly, what they agree to be engaged with. So we've talked about mana enhancing, mana protecting being really important through a number of different avenues, but one of the other things is for us to think about competency frameworks. Now, Real Skills, which is currently doing a bit of revamp, still has a really good piece on working with Māori. The other thing is that you'll see that Mātauraki also has been developing some online resource for working with Māori. They're really great places to start people thinking about some of these concepts we're talking about. But one of the things that we have an opportunity to think about is what does that mean in practice? Moving it beyond the rhetoric again, moving into practice. I like what Mason Jury said, this idea of cultural safety, which a lot of us kind of say we understand, is about the experience of the patient or the client. Cultural competence, though, is our ability as practitioners and our ability as services to improve health status by the integration of cultural and clinical. So if we're going to use the idea of mana enhancing, then that's thinking, how do we use that now in this space, which is about competence? And then what other competencies can we wrap around this to move us to a place where we're actually even better than we are now? Just some simple ones to think about is, as I said before, pōwhiri, that how do we go through the idea of encounter, engagement and relationship and get the idea that we're creating a safe space. Within that same place, we're looking at the transition from tapu to nō. So if you think about it, for those of you who remember going to the last pōwhiri, what are the different ways that we've transitioned from state of tapu into nō? People think of any ways? Anything? What are the ways that we've transitioned people in a pōwhiri process from a state of tapu to a state of nō, i.e. from being separate into being together, from being different to being the same into business? Ooh. So you've got lots of work to be done. Excellent. So see all your names on the next little workshops coming out. Okay, so I know you some of you a little bit embarrassed, I'm not going to say, but it's true. So one of the ways is of course the hongi. So that's why you do the hariru afterwards. Part of it is about checking to make sure that they're still all not tooled up, and the other part of it is about sharing breath and thoughts. So that's one way. Another way is what? Kai. There we go. So the kai part is really important because that's if you like breaks the tapu and lots of things. So one thing is it's about honouring people and being that hospital part. That's part of it, but it's also about the transition, breaking that stage of tapu. For some people who in more formalised processes, they have some really powerful speakers. So their waiata sometimes is a way of lessening the impact of their mana, if you like, and moving us into that space. Again, when we meet people, be it in our offices, Alfred, or whether it's in people's homes, what's our process of engagement and encounter? What thought do we give into what are the rules of engagement? What are we thinking about in terms of how do we create that safe space? How do we move people through? So again, it's about the principles and not getting caught up in the notion of just the box, this is what you're supposed to do. Being mindful and deliberate in what we do. But whanaunga is this idea of connecting up. So for some clients, some patients, it will be about how they connect up to support systems. But more importantly, it's our competency as practitioners, our competency to be able to make connections with services so that our patients and clients and the families and stuff can make meaningful connections. So the competency for us isn't just client focused, it's also about resource focused. It's about our ability to work across sectors, our ability to work in an integrated way. Karakia, again, for some people, it'll be about the space of what does this mean? Again, not about religion, but about clearing a spiritual pathway, if you like. And for some people, it'll be in our types of groups that we run. So again, supported treatment centre, I'm thinking, all right, so how do people begin the day to focus them to this place on the business that we're about? How do we engage people so that they're there, body, mind, spirit? And some of that people will use as karakia. Some people will use processes like mindfulness. Some people will use, but again, what's our intent to create this pathway? And Aromatawai, the idea of assessment. So what I'd expect to see in these assessments are things that say, what was the impact, where's the person's mana at, what do we need to do to kind of enhance that or not, what are the bits that are missing? Are they in a place that's so compromised that actually they're unable to make some decisions until something's happened? So if I was in that, at one end of the spectrum, I'd say maybe what we need to do is take somebody off the spiritual withdrawal management, and that might include lots of things like whakawhanaunga and karakia to move them in place. Now that that's cleared out of the way, they've got that business out of the way, they can now make some other decisions, hopefully. And how will I know? So again, it's thinking in the wider sense, not just a cognitive assessment, not just thinking that everything might be psychosis and so it's a mental health thing. Some people, like a very small number, there's some there still, that it might be a spiritual melody, if you like. So those are part of just some examples of competencies that we can think about as practitioners, and which, as I say, are kind of out there already in terms of things like real skills, matarakis online, and even some of the expectations of some of the registration boards for some of our professions. Peter Jensen, who's a doctor up north, I like this one. He said, practitioners have an ability to draw on Māori values, traditions, experiences, develop and deliver responsive interventions. So again, whether it's in that stage of rapport building or assessment, or even in the support treatment and in the continuing care, what are the values and traditions we draw on, not just for Māori, but whoever comes in through our door, in order to get the most responsive interventions. And again, failure in the past may be more about us than them. Part of this is saying, let's explore that a little bit more. Maybe we're not having the most responsive interventions. Maybe. Again, this is probably more for the centre, but when we get to that space, what are the different ways we can explore things like motivation? And value card sorts, really great. And even like the one that was developed here, by tikanga cards, which engages people in the same value sort, but also uses the tawhawhara. What are the kinds of interventions that we might use that takes us into a different space? And again, this is really a positive kind of way of approaching people, because it's very narrative, talks about traditions, and gets people engaging at the values place, rather than necessarily focusing on their AOD misuse. So what are the kinds of things that we'll do differently in our spaces now? For those who are Māori nurses, again, competency frameworks, and this is ticked off by the Nursing Council and stuff, so there are different competency frameworks out there, but they all have lots of similarities. All right, really quickly, because we've got about 5-10 minutes max, just be a little huddles. So if you can't sit, you might need to huddle in another place, or huddle up with somebody else. A really quick one, Maria is 40 years old. She has a history of childhood sexual abuse from age 7 to 14, unsuccessfully treated for conduct disorder, PTSD, eating disorder, substance dependence and anxiety over the last 22 years. She presents frequently to the ED for alcohol-induced crises, falls, overdoses and self-harm. Mental Health Service says she does not meet criteria for committal under the Mental Health Act. So just huddle up with some people, just talk about what's going on there really quickly, and then we'll move on to the next part of the story. And if you want to think about, is it possible that she might meet some of the criteria for the Act? Think about that. So her last presentation at ED was 2 months ago, and she attended the AOD service 4 months ago. Her mother was convinced that Maria is going to die either by accident or on purpose. Frustrated, exhausted and in desperation, she contacts you as the local AO to process placing her daughter under the new act. So again, think about her situation, what are first thoughts that go through your head, and more importantly, if you're thinking about mana enhancing and mana protecting practice, how would you start thinking about the points of, I guess, access or engagement with those processes in her story? If I think about that page and this page, if we assume that she makes criteria, let's assume she does, what are the points of engagement or interaction with mana enhancing, mana protecting practice, potentially?
For the points of engagement.
Yeah, well, in terms of applying mana enhancing or mana protecting practice, where might those points be in this story?
ED, mental health service.
Yep. So what are the things about that then, in terms of the ED or mental health service? What's the point of thinking about mana enhancing or mana protecting practice?
Well, given that history of presentation, I would imagine she gets the eyes going to the ceiling when she walks in the door. So here she is.
Great, and that's exactly it. So part of mana enhancing, mana protecting is how do we behave in a way that isn't that typical, if you like. There she is again. Yep, excellent. So we can expect possibly that she has some expectations of us as well, and they're not necessarily good ones. Yeah. Okay. What other points of engagement or interaction are there?
Probably from our service for our Māori clients.
Yep.
And then within service we will engage and communicate.
Beautiful. Okay, so the engagement of Cooking Identify in terms of some services means that you can have that walk-along person with you and can walk you through some of those processes. But also, as the point was made last week, if Maria was Māori, for instance, sometimes having somebody who's able to call it all Māori might be useful. Sometimes it can be really scary as well.
Mm.
So having to give some thought to where they're at in that scale, for all the information you have. But yeah, absolutely. Knowing who you can walk alongside, important. Yep. What else about this? Anything else on this page before we move?
It starts with who is she and what does she want.
Absolutely. And so those would be one of the things in our conversation with her that we'd want to get to a point. We know what her mother wants, obviously. And the other part is potentially, just potentially, some people would suspect, working in the Māori sector and some in Pacifica, that her history of child abuse has impacted on her mana and her tapu to the point where she doesn't feel able to engage, or doesn't engage, or engages in a way that is outside what we'd expect to be the norm. Just thinking about that part again, what's her experience, as people said before?
She's got a good collection of labels there, so someone's
absolutely.
Someone's given them to her.
Absolutely. So again, who is she and what is, because that's not necessarily who she is. Yep. Again, from this page, we see that she's had some access, so we know that she's known to services, and probably again for some time. We also have the mother. So part of this mana enhancing, mana protecting is saying, what's our relationship going to be with mother? To ensure that her mana is not, just because we're going to, if we potentially say no to her, that she doesn't feel let down like she's been 100 million times before or whatever, or that anger. So part of it is understanding the impact of Maria on the mother, but also what our relationship and how that would go forward is with mother. And I think, going back to Joe's point, we spend a lot, we can, and probably quite often will, spend a lot of time in the early phase, even before you get to the end, that you develop this kind of, some kind of relationship, and a mana enhancing one, a protecting one. It might be that for mother it is talking to her about, you need to do this because it'll protect Maria's mana as well as your mana. So actually thinking through that rationalisation for the mother can help her come to, if you like, some understanding of what she's doing. Okay, next part in your little groups. Halo halo. You visit Maria with her mum, and Maria is in a confused and dishevelled state and appears to be unaware of her surrounding squalor. You explain who you are and why you are there. She accuses her mother of trying to get rid of her and tells her to piss off and leave her alone. Maria wants to know who you are and what you want. You explain who you are, your reason for visiting, and she states that she does not drink much, feels okay and doesn't need any help. She tells you to piss off too. Again, what are the points of engagement or interaction around mana enhancing, mana protecting notions, and anything else you want to kind of throw in? Yeah, what do you want to solve? Yeah, any other thoughts?
It's hard not to react to squalor and someone's physical appearance, so how do you keep that to yourself?
Yeah. And again, it comes back to the discussion that was had earlier on in the day about our need to kind of, that's maybe part of the description. We need to think about, is she taking care of herself? Is she able to take care of herself? And again, coming back to thinking about the DSM-5 criteria about taking care of oneself, really quite an important part of that background. But also, I guess, trying to get engaged at that point where you can make sense of, actually, she doesn't care what this is about. For her, it doesn't matter. And she has some rationale or not. But again, mana enhancing means being able to put aside our values. It does mean thinking about the kind of conversation we'll have with her and how that will go about. And again, thinking about the relationship between her and her mother and what that means in the conversation. Anything else that leaps out with people?
Yeah, I think you've also got to go beyond that. I mean, you're there to assess for the act, but you've got to go beyond that. That's only a small part of it. She's not currently engaged in your service. It's kind of about what, what does she want? Again, how do you help her well-being as opposed to just assessing her well-being? And given a history of abuse and conduct problems, by threatening a big stick, you're likely to actually wind up big time and trigger a whole lot of problems. So you've got to balance that. I need to be honest about why I'm here, but equally I need to be really gentle about that and actually look to engage and take a well-being approach.
And that's a really good point. The other thing is, what might have been different if you hadn't gone with mum? Would that have been different? Other support workers, other kinds of people that might have been useful to go with in terms of supporting you in this process. So again, I think the key thing for me is one of the things about mana enhancing, mana protecting. Like a lot of other parts of our work that we do, it's about being deliberate and mindful and thinking about the implications of what we do, and therefore what we're looking for, being able to monitor. Did that work? Did that not work? How did this assist this process? And coming back to, as Fraser said, who is this person? What do they want? How do we create that rapport, that engagement that allows us to move that space? Any other comments before we wrap that up? Right, so you've got most of the key points, and the key thing would be, if you're working with this, that you're able to be deliberate in thinking about what you need to do to work in the mana enhancing space. Sometimes, as with working with mother, it might be about mana protecting, i.e. this is not going to make this worse. And thinking about, at the end of the day, creating a space that is conducive to being able to get what we want to do, but also for her to consider what's going on. Alright, so the implications of mana enhancing in the Act are pretty much that we can start looking at our engagement processes. How was that mana enhancing or not? What were the processes that we used to engage people? Is just doing a paper file, making a call, is that actually mana enhancing? In some cases that might be practical, but is it actually mana enhancing for the people we're working with? And it's not just the person, it's their systems as well. How does it go into assessment? Because the AO sends a signal up to the approved specialist that we need to have a little bit more thinking, and it might be because of brain trauma, it might be because maybe, I'm not sure if there's some cultural states going on, it might be a range of things, but how do we send that signal in that description we put in the application and say, hey, here's the flag, because also that flag needs to perhaps go to the supportive centre. Continuing care, and once we raise these things and we track change of time, how does this also go all the way through to what we do in the continuing care space? And certainly if we're working with Māori, and one of the things I guess the fear is, at the moment not that many Māori come under the Act, and yet we seem to make up a large number of our caseloads of those services around the country. What happened when the Mental Health Act came in is suddenly there was a surge of Māori being referred. So I hope we're not going to get that this time around. But one of the things about it is maybe it's because the types of services we're currently delivering, or the types of service people are seeing, aren't meeting the need. Maybe. But continuing care becomes important in terms of offering options. Working with whānau, as I say, very much working with mana enhancing means that you have to engage whānau at some level, even if it is the new whānau, not necessarily your blood line. Supervision, who are you going to call to support you? So up here, Puking Atawhai are really good for offering support to services, at least the DHB service. What does that mean for the rest of our services? And it's not just about cultural supervision, it's about application of those concepts and those ideas into practice, is where we want to take it. And accountability. If our district inspectors, for instance, we're expected to look at, is your service mana enhancing, mana protecting? What would they expect to see? What would they expect to be hearing? What would they expect to be touching when they come to see documentation or people? So those are the kind of implications for mana enhancing. Yes, again, coming back, the reason why we're looking at mana enhancing, because it's in the Act. If we don't kind of engage at mana enhancing and maintain the integrity around it, and the idea that mana enhancing could potentially be hijacked and bastardised and diluted, that's that whole cultural appropriation or misappropriation idea. If we want to remain true to why it's in the Act, then we need to think about its implementation. And again, if we don't implement in the way it was thought about, then we're not really meeting the purpose, or one of the purposes of the Act. Going back to that idea, Manaaki, it pervades everything we potentially can do, including clinical interactions, rapport, engagement with care, reducing distress, assessment and treatment. Means understanding the dynamics of relationships, because that's a key part of working with Māori, is the relationships and the dynamics of that. And the integrated ecology that is Māori epistemology. So the idea that everything's connected. So whether it's time, whether it's past, present, future, it's all in the one space as opposed to a linear idea. Where social and spiritual capital are actually part of the norm. Those are all parts of thinking about these concepts. And again, thinking about how they relate to the factors that perpetuate substance misuse or support change. So again, these things aren't just thought about in isolation, but actually what's their connection to our core business of working in addiction. And it comes back to a key part of maintaining the integrity going forward will be who will support us in these spaces. What are the resources? And as I say, the reading list that is going with the mana enhancing workshops will be on our website, Te website. And there's a publication there talking about Manaaki in the wider sense. And I suspect that as time goes on, we'll develop more resources around Manaaki as a practice, particularly in the Act. I think the other thing that's really important is that while we're talking about the Act, mana enhancing is something that will impact on the rest of our business as usual. So that's the website. If you head there, but not today, if you head there soon, you'll get the reading list, you'll get some of those other resources. But mana enhancing practice, I think many of you will do parts of it and are already engaged in that space. This is about making that more deliberate and more mindful and underpinning it from a Māori worldview.